Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again for another tutorial with the Academy of Flowers. So today we're going to create a stylish and interesting basket flower arrangement that's perfect for the home environment or in fact a corporate workspace. The composition includes a basket vessel along with a muted choice of colours, producing a calm, serene ambience for your decor. Now, this design incorporates a mix of mediums, including faux hydrangea, pepperberries and birch. So let me begin by sharing with you the tools and equipment needed for this demonstration. So we have our vessel, which is this beautiful rustic basket. Now what I've done is I've actually already placed in a piece of fibre floral foam and covered that with some chicken wire. Now you could use dry foam if you want to, or you could use wet foam that hasn't been soaked. My warning if you use the wet foam is that it crumbles very easily. It's not terribly substantial. So if you are slightly uncertain and not too confident about placing your stems, inserting stems and removing them regularly is going to just make the foam crumble. So using fibre floral, again with the chicken wire, will actually be more substantial for you. Okay, so that's how I've started with my container. Then I've got wire cutters for the faux stems to cut through the wire in the plastic, and I've got my carbon blade scissors for the pepperberries and the betula that we're using. Now you could, if you wanted to, at this point fill the container or cover the container with moss if you wanted to, then that alleviates the necessity to completely cover the fibre floral foam. But I'm not going to use that on this occasion because my hydrangeas are actually going to fill that space quite adequately. So let's get started. I'm going to start with my betula or birch, and I'm using that in the centre of the design. Now this is actually going to give me, I'm just going to move to one side so you can still see me. This is actually going to give me the height and architecture of the arrangement. So I'm inserting that first. So placing them centrally and making sure that you get a good even mix of stems all the way around. So whatever angle you view the design from, you get a good image. Now if you were popping this into a fireplace, obviously it would just be front facing, but it's still important to make sure that you fill the whole design in. Also then makes it more adaptable for other areas. So if you decide to remove it from the fireplace, if that's where you're originally placing it, and then pop it onto an occasional side table or something like that, it doesn't matter because the entire circumference is covered. So it then becomes a three-dimensional 365-degree arrangement. You see, building up that centre with the birch. I've literally just used 2 bunches of birch here, so not a huge amount. So there we have our birch. I'm just going to move the design to one side so you can see my next step. Now I'm going to take one of the hydrangeas and place that into the container. Now the beautiful thing about using faux stems is if you don't want to cut them too short because you want to repurpose the flowers for another arrangement, you can literally just bend the stems if you wish to. So I'm just popping that in. To the side so it covers the edge of the basket. I'm going to repeat that with the rest of my hydrangeas. You can create this design in fresh flowers, but if you do, make sure that the container you use is watertight and you opt for a selection of flowers that mirror this design shape, such as delphinium, mollicella or gladioli for the height, viburnum, obviously hydrangea, or carnations for the base, and maybe stray roses or freesias for the intermediate flowers. That's where I'm going to place the pepperberries. Now I've actually separated the pepperberries because they do have a tendency to cling together, and when you try and separate them you can potentially lose some of the berries, so I've separated them already. Now make sure when you create the design that the size of the design complements the area in which it's being placed. So say for example it was going into a fireplace, you want to make sure that it's not too small so it's insignificant and not too large so that it overpowers the whole fireplace area. So I'm now going to start to insert my pepperberries. So gently pushing those down into the fibre floral foam. Now we've got a bit of a mix here of heights and sizes. I'm just pushing those in. You have to feel for the foam and insert the berries. And then continue that all the way around. Now I'm going to cut the stem of that particular one because it's a nice sharp point and I'll be able to push that into the foam more readily. Now if you do find difficulty in inserting them, you can always wire them. So exactly the same process as I've shown you before. You take a stub wire, bring 2 or 3 pieces together, wire them, trim the wooden stems of the dried product and then push the wire into the foam. You can see the shape that we're trying to create. So you want that group to go all the way around, so complementing and bringing together the dried birch and the faux hydrangeas. And by grouping, you're able to view each variety in its individuality. So you get to see all of the birch, all of the pepperberries and all of the hydrangeas. When they're dotted together as a loose design, you lose a little bit of their impact. So continue all the way around with the pepperberries. That's a lovely stem. Love the way that the pepperberries have a slight change in colour, so from that deep raspberry right through to a cream and very pale, almost blush pink. Now, as always, you could adapt this design to suit the home environment or actually a corporate setting if you want to, by adjusting the colours and the varieties that you use. So adopt the corporate branding, and obviously if you're doing it for home decor, just bear in mind other elements of the room so that you actually get the design to match in and look like it's a coordinated part of the decor. Now you could, if you're savvy, is chat to your clients and suggest that maybe they have 4 different designs representing each season. So say for example a spring design, a summer, an autumn and a winter, which means you get 4 designs to create and they actually can ring the changes of each design and bring each one out when the season dictates. It's very easy to store the arrangement in the meantime. It can be stored in a dry environment that's frost free, Obviously, if you're using dried products, it's essential that you don't get them wet, and just make sure that it's vermin free as well. So we don't want anybody or any little four-legged beasties taking a nibble on them. I'll just put the last few pieces in. Now, because these are a little weaker than the other stems, I am going to wire those, so bear with me 1 second. So, as I said, bring all the stems together, create a hairpin, bring the long stem around the short, and then remove the natural stems. Now you can then cover that with stem text or parafilm. I'm not going to worry on this occasion because it's not going to be viewed. There we go. And there you have it. Thank you so much for joining us today for this tutorial. I've really enjoyed creating this one for you. I hope you've enjoyed watching and learnt some useful tips and guidance that you can use and employ in your own floral creations. So thanks again. I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.